So the GAA Injury Benefit Fund has been in the headlines over the past week. The scheme will no longer cover loss of wages in 2021, and this has led to concerns from clubs across the country, including Waterford, Cork and Kilkenny. Well, to discuss this matter, delighted to be joined on the line by Chairman of the Mount Sion Club, Seamie Cleere. And Seamie, first of all, can you explain what has happened here?
Yeah, it's the second time, Tomas, within 3 years that they've gone at the injury scheme with regard to player wages. Initially, prior to 2019, a player could get up to €400 a week for about 46 weeks. Once he had a letter from his employer to say that the company wouldn't be paying him, once he had three recent wage slips and all the paperwork. Once his paperwork was right, you got it. So in 2019, then that was changed to 26 weeks at up to €300. So now again, people are saying it's still fairly okay. And then at the beginning of December, in a missile that was sent out, they just changed it altogether and said that we're not paying on loss of wages anymore. It was kind of slipped in on page 3 of a document that had good news with regard to clubs getting money back on public liability and that type of insurance, but this was just slipped in on the end of it, and we copped it in Mount Sion and brought it up at County Convention. In fairness to Brendan Tobin, then he brought it up at Central Council. Unfortunately, we didn't get much support at Central Council, but Cork seemingly then have to jump on the bandwagon a small bit at Congress in February, and the clubs in Cork also seem to have gotten behind it a bit, so it seems to be getting a bit of traction at the minute, but it's worrying. Like my initial thought would have been that the GPA would have been all over it, like as a player welfare body, but again, GAA the silence is definitely on it now, which is very worrying as well. Like I would have hoped that you get some bit of support from the like of the GPA, that they're very good on other things, but to realise they've been so silent on this is very disappointing.
And how important has this fund been, Seamie, to clubs like Mount Sion in recent times?
Well, for us in the last 3 years, the most, we've had 3 different lads who've had serious enough injuries. 2 of them with young families, one of whom had only recently bought a house. So, like, the fact that the insurance scheme came in, it was a massive help. It was a help in such a way that we wouldn't have been able to help him back. You know what I mean? And it gave peace of mind to himself. It gave peace of mind to both lads. It gave peace of mind to their partners as well, who know that, look, if they do get injured, they were fair enough. And I know from speaking to players and their partners, they were very happy with the way they were treated by the GAA when the injury did happen. And I just think this is going to have a long-term effect with people who have young families and maybe recently bought houses and the like of that as to whether they'll continue playing.
Yeah, what impact, Seamie, will this have later on in the year when club activity eventually returns, do you think?
The major issue, as I see it, Moss, is that a lot of people haven't seen it, and it will take, somebody will get a serious injury, be they inter-county or club, and there'll be nothing there for them. They'll be out of work. I think that the whole publicity that will come with it as well will be terrible. And I just think there's major, and unfortunately I can't see, as I said, it's Moss, it's the second time in 2 years that it has been interfered with as such or touched this scheme. So I think it's the thin end of the wedge. I think once it goes, it's gone forever, and I think that would be very disappointing. I mean, the one thing you would always be delighted with was the way we did treat our players in the GAA. If they were injured, if they were out, if they had to have operations, we always treated them well, and you'd be quite proud of that. If a fella got injured, you say, well, you know he's going to be looked after. I think, unfortunately, we're heading in this race to the bottom now, whereby we're just not going to be doing that anymore, and that's hugely disappointing.
In the GAA's annual report, Seamie, just to give their perspective on it, they stated that the fund had a deficit of $934,000 due to lack of gate receipts, and it's predicted to be a further deficit of between 1 to 2 million in 2021. Do you think, is there another way for the GAA to make up this shortfall rather than removing the loss of wages cover?
Well, we actually had a look at it, Moss, and if we look at it, we reckon that if we counted every club in Ireland, it would basically work out at something in the region to cover that fund. It would work out somewhere in the region of €800 per club. Now, we just said we came across, obviously, we said that like a Mount Sion would train, we would obviously field 4, 5, 6 adult teams along with our juvenile teams. We'd expect to pay more. A club that was only fielding 1 or 2 teams, you'd expect that they would pay less. But the most that we would see a club having to pay would be somewhere between €800 and €1,000. Now, that would bring the money back into the fund if they wanted to go that way. The other way is that the money that they've gotten from Sport Ireland, which they've given back to the clubs in a grant towards the public liability and property insurance, they could have taken 1.3 million from that and put that into the Players' Injury Fund and lessened the amount of money we were getting from property and public liability. There's numerous ways they could do it, Tomas, but the one thing they didn't do was discuss it. And to my mind, they treated clubs shoddily by just slipping it in on page 3 of a document on the 1st of December. I just think there's poor form.
Yeah, just going back to the annual report, Seamie, the GAA stated that this is a pause and it's hoped that the loss of wages cover can be restored when future funding permits. Would you be worried that this will last maybe a little bit longer than just 1 year?
I think once it's gone to us. That's my feeling on it. I don't see them coming back with it now. As I say, if they hadn't changed the scheme prior to 2019, I might be more inclined to agree with it. But I think unfortunately it's money men are making decisions now rather than GAA men. No, I mean, of course, Scott Park will tell me that they're all GAA, who they are. But to my mind, that scheme can't be touched. It shouldn't be touched. It's something that people within the association were proud of. People looking after clubs, looking after teams, were always proud that was the way it used to be. To my mind, I can't see it coming back. That's being brutally honest, but I don't see them bringing this back. When funds will allow, Tomas, I mean, in 3 years' time, who's to say funds will allow that? Funds could be used for something different then. It's who decides what's the most important part of funds, I suppose, you know? And to leave it as open-ended as they have would lead me to believe that, no, this is not coming back.
And just a final point on this issue, Seamie, and it's been really well covered by Owen Cormacan in the Irish Examiner over the past week. Have any other Waterford clubs expressed fears to you about this matter?
Yeah, I've had contact with a few. I've had contact with a few now, even as late as last night I got a message from a couple of different clubs. But I think I'm not sure how many are following as maybe as much as they should be, Tomas, to be honest with you. I think the unfortunate thing with it is it's only when somebody gets injured and clubs go to look for this claim and realise it's not there, or counties go and look for this claim and realise it's not there. I think that's when you'll have trouble. I think then somebody will say, oh, gee, we didn't see it, you know. The killer as well, Tomas, if you look at it, and because of the times that we're in, if you had a meeting whereby you had 50 clubs in a room, well, then you'll get traction on that because everybody says, gee, that's not right. But I think with the Zoom meetings at the minute, people trying to get in on them, people can't get in on them, people able to use them, not able to use them, I think it's possibly hindering it. Do you know what I mean? So, but I would think that most clubs, I definitely would think that any player I've spoken to is very worried about it. Particularly players that would be working in the private sector or working for themselves. I think they're the people that are going to be most hit by it.
Well, Mount Sion Chairman Seamie Cleere, thanks so much for taking our call today.
Okay, Tomas, thanks. Bye. Mind yourself.
Blue and white. We are blue and white. We are WLR.
Well, Waterford Camogie will be hosting a family fun quiz on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. The event will be streamed live on YouTube, and you can find more details on the Waterford Camogie Facebook and Twitter pages. And on the subject of Daisha Camogie, All-Star Niamh Rocket is next up here on Lorna Porca.
Lorna Porca with Tomás McCarthy on WLR.